Hey, so today I'm speaking with Shannon MulliganMayenik, who is an herbalist that I recently got to know. She actually took my 101 class, my Spiritual Seekers 101 class. I already heard of you, Shannon, because of you sell products at a local store to me at Market House in Westwood. And so I knew your name as far as that goes. And then I saw that you signed up for my class and I was happy to get to know you. So I figured, what you offer is something that is special that I don't know very much about, but I want to know more about. And being in the witchy world, there's the different aspects of witchiness. So you would be in the green witch category. So I just would like to learn more about it. So thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And same kind of with you, I had known your name. And I was actually going to Westwood one day to drop off product at Chelsea's and passed your shop. And I used to be up that way every day because I worked in Old Tappan. So I was familiar with the area, but when I saw your shop, I was like, oh my God, that looks like somewhere I need to go. And then when I looked up the shop name and then connected the two, I'm like, oh, I know her name too. So it's funny how I feel like we're always all connected.
Yeah, the serendipitous connections. So as far as like the herbalism thing goes, like this is like so fascinating to me because when I first like went into massage school and then I had my own business, I remember there was like a $5 bookstore. I can't think of the name, Atlantic Books. It was a small chain for a short period of time in the early 2000s. And they had, cheap books, and there was like an herbal apothecary, some kind of book like that I bought. And I was like, this is so fascinating to me, but I never really got there. And it has always been like a peripheral interest. So I'm happy that, I now know somebody who knows it intimately and I could like break it down. And because I don't think it's for me to study, but I'm happy to like learn about it. So when did you start getting into like all of this? And actually one thing that popped to mind this morning, because I was like, oh, I wonder like how our conversation is going to go. And I thought, my one teacher, Janet, talks about how she would make spells when she was little, and she would like make concoctions like as a little kid. And so I was like, I wonder if Shannon made like, with like mud pies and things like that, where you made spells or you made concoctions. Did you do stuff like that?
I did. I definitely was like the little girl who loved to like use exactly what you said, like mud pies. Like my mom would give me like a little flour and a little sugar to bring out, and they would be like my ingredients, like, and then I'd dig up the mud and I'd always be picking like vegetables from the neighbors and cutting it up and putting it into stuff. So yeah, I was always like creating. And my first job when I was 15 was in a greenhouse. So I became familiar with more of like the houseplant nursery type plants at a younger age, and just always I fell in love with it. And I always said it was something I wanted to go back to. Mm-hmm. Went to college, graduated, got into publishing, and for 12 years worked the 9-to-5 grind, with a higher ed publisher, and was just simply miserable. But within that time, a coworker of mine that I had worked with, she asked me if I wanted to go to a class. So I said, sure, why not? I was always open to trying new things, and it had been years since I had worked with plants, went through, like I said, college, was a bartender, did all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of out of that, scene, but I took a class. We took it up in Sugarloaf, New York, and it was at this tiny little herb shop. And that was the night I met my mentor and friend, Robin Rose Bennett, who is an herbalist, in Northern New Jersey. So we're still in contact. We still hang out. We've gone out to dinner recently. So it's nice that I have her still as a mentor and friend to me. That was about 13 years ago. So that's when it started. I took one class, came home and told Matt, this is what I want to do. And then it snowballed from there. I took a 3-year apprenticeship with her. I took other online courses and classes. So it was just a constant learning. And then it was in 2015 that we, as in my husband and I, Matt, started Mayernik Kitchen.
Now, what did you learn in that first class that you took 13 years ago?
So funny thing is, we made an elixir of some sort. So it was dried herbs, honey, I think it was brandy. So she made it and then kind of split it up for everyone to take home. So I had this little jar of stuff, went home, put it in the cabinet, and Matt and I were leaving for Napa, like 2 days, like, we were leaving in 2 days. This was probably about like 6 weeks after the class. And I had such a scratchy throat. I just felt like crap. And I was like, oh, wait, I have that stuff in the like cabinet. So I went to go take it, not knowing I needed to strain all the dried herbs and dried berries out of it. So I went to go take a shot, and it had like hawthorn berries in it, which, if you know, they're super hard, and like I'm coughing, I'm spitting up into the sink. And that was like my first experience with plant medicine. But that's what made me literally like fall in love with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you started doing stuff like out of your home. I remember me and you were talking another time, and like relating about like running a small business and how it kind of takes over your house, and eventually you had to be like, all right, we need a storefront. So you had on a small scale, you started making making elixirs and different types of products, and then it just kept growing. Like what was the original kind of products that you started making?
Yeah, so we started in 2015, and one day Matt was out in the garden and we just had an abundance of oregano, and he came in, he's like, what are two of us going to do with all of this oregano? And Mayernik Kitchen had been like brewing over the summer, and this was Labor Day weekend. And he's like, why don't we like try to sell some of this stuff? Let's make some products and sell them. So literally that night, like 2 bottles of wine, just writing all, like just brain dumping everything. And we came up with what we were going to start with, a subscription box. We started with a subscription box. We sent it out to 10 friends for free, get feedback, and then opened it up. So we did that for about a year, and it was probably one of the hardest things, just because we were really pulling at strings on what to create, different products, and it just wasn't in line in what we really wanted to do. We were making a lot of, body products and lotions, and weren't really incorporating a ton of herbs into them. So we decided, you know what, this isn't working. We need to kind of let this go, and then just started focusing on individual products. So that's kind of where then we started building out our website, so folks could go online and just purchase an individual product, as is. And then it just continually grew that way. So it was just all organic growth.
Just to see what people were interested in, basically.
Yeah.
And like
and we've had products.
What was that? You have to like make things in advance, because some of these elixirs need to like sit for like X amount of weeks or months or something, right?
Yeah, so it is very much so a seasonal product that we make, because if we harvest in the fall, we have that plant material to use throughout the winter to make products. And then when we're, spring comes, we could start harvesting fresh again. But then we have like a weird period of time where if we run out of dried stuff over the winter months, unfortunately, we are not going to have that again until, midsummer, when plants are starting to flourish again. So it definitely is a game of, how much do we need to grow in order to make the products to kind of keep us through this year cycle, so we don't have those gaps where, we run out of sage or something like that. So it's definitely seasonal. We're a very small batch compared to some, companies. But yeah, it's just been steadily growing, and now especially since we have the store.
Yeah, and me and Shannon also related and connected over the fact that we started our storefronts in the middle of the pandemic. So another similarity there. It's like, who opens the store in a pandemic? Apparently,
yeah. Yeah, it really, we started looking in 2019 for a space, the end of 2019 into 2020, and found this place in, I want to say late February, all set to sign a lease in March of 2020, and then didn't end up signing a lease until July of that year, and then not moving in once construction was done until December of 2020.
Yeah, which is when I opened up also.
Yeah, so it was a long haul, but
well worth it. Added, and you have a kitchen in the back. So your storefront is in Pompton Plains, which is not far from Wayne in northern New Jersey, for those that know the area. And you have, so it's part storefront, part kitchen, right?
Yes. Yep. So we produce everything there now. We, like Karen had mentioned, you know, we did start in our home and then we were using other commercial kitchens, and it was just a constant lugging of products and a lot of glass jars and all of this stuff. So to get it out of our home and into a space where, you know, I now go to work and then I come home, is very nice. It's a good, you know, balance, because work was just always at home. So it was always on pretty much. So now it's nice that when I come home, of course I still do work, but if I don't want to, it's not in my face.
Right. So you have like tinctures and and sprays, like what do you create?
We probably have about, on average, about 80 products that we keep, you know, pretty regularly. Tinctures, salves. Our number one seller is our elderberry syrup. We make a fire tonic. We also do elixirs and oxymels.
What's oxymel?
An oxymel is so it has honey in it. So it's plant material, vinegar, and honey. And then if you have an elixir, it's plant material, alcohol, and honey.
Okay.
So it's just the liquid that changes between an oxymel and an elixir.
Okay. And oh shoot, what was I gonna say? I don't remember, but there's just like so much in that. Oh yeah, the fire cider, because not everyone knows like the fire tonic, what that is. So
yeah. So fire tonic, same as like a fire cider, is a vinegar-based drink with a whole bunch of spicy ingredients. Great for your immunity. It was one of, you know, it's a almost like a folklore or a traditional type medicine that people would make, and you could really add anything you want to it. And people use it to boost their immunity. So you could take it daily, you could take it, you know, every other day, however you'd like to, but we'd love to use it too as a food product, because it is vinegar based and it kind of lends itself to dressings and marinades and, you know, all things like that. So if people are not familiar with it, I always like to add that little bit, because then they're like, oh, well, I like to make salad dressing. Let me give it a shot. So, you know, it's like incorporating your medicine into your food, which folks don't think about, but we do on a daily basis here.
Right. Well, I saw the other day you posted like an Instagram story, and Shannon does such a beautiful job on Instagram. It really is very visually pleasing, like how you present your stuff. But you were what, smudging or like saging, like using sage smoke inside of a tumbler?
Oh, inside of a cocktail, yeah.
I was like, oh, that's different. You get lots of flavors and smoky elements going on in your drink then.
Yeah, and it's just small things like that. Like, and it doesn't have to be fancy. I mean, we used a piece of sage this big, you know, so it wasn't anything that would cost a ton of money. And if you have it growing, you could just dry it out. But yeah, we really do try to incorporate some sort of, you know, plant medicine, whether it's culinary herbs or medicinal herbs, into, you know, what we're preparing at home.
So the fire cider and the elderberry are your bigger selling products, right?
Yeah.
I remember I knew a girl who makes her own fire cider, and she just had them in jugs in her front closet, like next to her boots, you know, so like it's in there fermenting for months, and it kind of burns, but it's kind of good. It's like garlicky and horseradishy, and I forget what other things are. I know there's a ton of things, like you said, it could be a mixture of things.
Yeah, and a lot of people do put other, like I've had one where they use hibiscus in it, which is a great immune boosting herb. Adds a little like tartness, but not tart like, you know, some of the spicy tart stuff. So yeah, you really could use it or make it with anything, but it's just a vinegar based product. We do add honey to it to help with that burn, because I'm not gonna lie, when I take it, I like hold my nose and take the shot glass and like shoot it back, because it's spicy, but you feel it like burn going down, but then you're like, oh, wow, I feel like everything opened up.
Right. And like with the oregano oil, do you guys make your own oregano oil too?
We don't know.
That was something I learned about, like, I don't know, maybe over 10 years ago. And I met another mom who was kind of like holistic-ish like me. And we were like, you know, trying to share remedies of immune boosting things. And she's like, have you tried oregano oil? And I was like, no, you know, what's that? So I wasn't sure if you guys made your own or not. And
no. So is that usually an essential oil of oregano, or is it literally oregano like infused in like an olive oil?
I think it's oregano in olive oil, but I'm not. But it's so burning and so strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That much.
Yeah. And I've heard great things about it. like to help with colds, flus, things like that.
And when I saw you like 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, I bought the mugwort. And I did notice like a different energy going to sleep at night, and
Nice.
yeah, and the dream recall and that's neat. So that's another one that you say you sell a lot of too.
Mugwort is, so when I first started my apprenticeship at Robin, we had to choose a plant ally. And for some reason I was automatically called to Mugwort, and she has been an ally to me since then. And it's a wild weed. If you don't know what mugwort is, it's a wild weed that grows everywhere. Garden boxes, sides of highways, literally everywhere. So there's never a shortage of mugwort. But I fell in love with her, and I've used her in many different ways. So I love the tincture. Helps me sleep. It's a good relaxant. It's a bit of a sedative. So it helps me sleep, also helps me, creates lucid dreaming. So, if you're into dream work or anything like that, it's definitely a good plant to work with. You could burn it like you would burn, sage to help cleanse the area, or your mind, body, home, anything like that. We make a hydrosol with it. So I spray it on my face. We infuse oil with it. So there's whatever you could do at mugwort, I do it.
And when you connect with the plant as a plant ally, because I know this from Amy Dempster and her teachings, how she's connected with them like in meditation. Do you have experiences like that?
Yeah, like I've sat with plants before and have just, it's a great way to get to know a plant too, even if you just sit with them. And granted, it could be the stillest of still days, but you'll get, energy from the plant. You'll feel what, it may be telling you something you need that you don't even know you need. So yeah, sitting with a plant is amazing. And I sometimes need to find more time to do it, just because now I'm so familiar with many plants that I'm like, okay, this is that, I could use this for that. But it's finding that time to really just sit and listen to the plants.
Yeah, I think that she even recommended bringing the plant and like leaving it next to your putting it on your nightstand and like kind of having it connect. I mean, I do that with crystals, so it makes sense with plants.
Yeah, and the energy, and I think they're there to provide for us and to help us in something we may need that we don't know we need. So I feel it's like a really good, connection, and even just connecting with yourself, sitting for 20 minutes, no distractions, and looking at the plant, seeing how it's growing, watching when it might start to sway a little, if there's a little breeze or.
Oh my God, the other day I looked at my one plant at work, and I swear it waved to me. One little petal or whatever leaf kind of just bobbed up and down. When I looked at it, I was like, I think the plant just
You're like, hello.
like just acknowledging me. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I mean, the energy they give off, and sometimes when I go to harvest, it'll almost feel like, nope, okay, I'm not going to harvest from that right now. Like it kind of gives you that, pushback. Yeah. So I think it's always proper to, ask, may I harvest you? May I use you? Can I,
right.
And just to connect like that. And if you do harvest, give a little something back. So it, you're not just taking, you're also giving back to the plant. So
yeah,
there's a lot of small ritual type things you could do, which don't cost a dime or time, it's just getting into the practice of doing these things.
Well, yeah, because you could even just leave like a stone with some like love behind, and like put this in it, or even just blessing the water before you water it, stuff like that. That's really neat. I know, because I just know that from the Amy Dempster's classes about earth healing, that's opened me up to that kind of reciprocal relationship, where you ask permission and give thanks. And like with the Native Americans, they like sprinkle like tobacco as like gratitude to the earth. Something with tobacco.
Yes. Or? Do we have tobacco? Did you
like, do you do anything like that? Like
so
like that?
We actually grew tobacco a few times. Didn't grow great in this area, but yeah, we definitely, I'll have like a little pouch of dried herbs if I go out foraging, I'll sprinkle. And what Robin had taught me years ago was, if you have nothing on you, you're just out and you're like, this plant is calling to me, I'm going to harvest. You could leave like a piece of your hair, like something as simple as that. It's always on you. So, anything really. So it's just giving that offering back to the land that you just received from.
That's really cool. Do you have any other stories related to like any cool plant stories that you want to share? I know.
Well, how much time do you have? No. I mean, I really could talk about plants all day, but one of my favorites also is, and another plant ally of mine, and grows abundantly here in this area that a lot of people don't know you could use, is the white pine. So it's a tree, but we have a few growing in the back of our garden, and it kind of borders our garden. So I always say they're like the protectors of the garden. And you could use white pine needles, bark, sap, pollen, so there's a lot on the tree that you could use throughout the seasons. It's an evergreen, so it's a great plant to go out and harvest in the middle of winter when everything else is dead and, maybe covered in snow. You could go out and harvest some pine needles and make a tea with it, or we infuse it in oil to make a salve because it has that like real warming properties, almost like a spearmint or a wintergreen. So it's learning. One of my biggest, tips or takeaways would be is to just pick one plant and learn about that one.
Yeah.
Because you could have 1,000 books and you could have 1,000 plants right outside your back door. But if you don't know about one of them, it's going to be hard to learn about all of them.
Yeah. Well, we had a white pine in our house, on our first house that we owned, and I loved it so much. It had such a gentle energy, so soft, and to walk barefoot on pine needles feels so good. So I felt really connected to that tree. And then we had a birdhouse on that tree that was too low, and then our cat took advantage. So we're like, okay, never mind, no more birdhouse on that tree. It was so pretty, but it wasn't a good setup for the birds.
Yeah, and how you say walking on the pine, needles, so they've then dropped and most likely were dried, and you could use that as like great tinder for starting a fire.
Right.
So it's like the tree is constantly giving, just like all plants pretty much, or it's constantly giving, where even though we consider it dead on the ground, we could use it for something. It still has a purpose. Right.
I just saw, I'm like, what did I see? It was you, the honey,
oh yeah,
spreaders that you got at work. They were from fallen trees and South Florida. Yeah.
Yep. So super sustainable.
Yeah. It's like Palo Santo's is harvested from fallen trees too. So it's just a nice way to, honoring the life cycle and not having to kill a tree in order to use it or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Does your heart break when you see trees getting removed?
It does, especially when it's for, clearing of new developments or things like that. Like I know sometimes land does need to be cleared for certain things, but to put up a strip mall or a new development of mega mansions here in North Jersey, it does, because then you think about not just the plants, but the wildlife, and then how everything is just getting displaced. And we see it here. I'm in northern New Jersey also, and everyone just keeps building and building and building, and now we have 20 deer that come through the backyard. And granted, it's beautiful, but they don't need to be eating our herbs. They should be in the woods, like eating the plants out there, so it's just it is tough to see.
Yeah, I know. We have a fox that lives in our neighborhood in addition to deer, so yeah, it's pretty demented. It makes me sad all the time to see all that, but I know anybody that is aware of this like sentient kind of connection to nature, it's hard to see trees being removed, especially if it's unnecessarily. Like if that tree's not rotten in the middle, I'm pissed.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, you don't want it to fall on your house, but
right. Yeah. See, I like that. I could sometimes understand, and then hopefully you could save the wood to either craft, like make a craft with it, or if someone's a woodworker, or burn it as some firewood to create fire, which is another powerful element.
Yeah, right. And so you have the store in Pompton Plains, and you also distribute your products to different storefronts. Do you distribute your products just locally, or is it like throughout? I know that you can deliver it to people who buy off your website wherever they are in the US, but do you do business with anybody outside of the area, or is it just like kind of local?
Right now it's pretty much local. We did have somebody who was buying our elderberry up in like New York State, where we couldn't drive. It was like a 6-hour drive. So clearly we weren't going to deliver, but that shop actually closed. So right now it is pretty local. I'm either delivering or they're coming to the shop to pick up, which is great.
Right.
And it kind of just extends us just a little bit, outside of our area. So we're getting into a new, community of people who may be shopping at that store. So
Yeah.
it is nice to have, I think we're in about like 12 different stores, and of such a variety, like from, a candle and plant shop like Chelsea's, or we're in a juice shop, or we have, we're in a bunch of farms. So, that clientele. So it's nice to be in different areas, because then there's different folks that are, benefiting from it.
Yeah. And like learning about it, because it's like, it was so suppressed for so long. Like it all was so like thought of like hippy dippy and like whatever. But it's like, meanwhile, it's like been around as long as there's been people to consume it, so it's just smart that I'm glad that people are coming aware of it now and more,
Yes.
and that they can rely on your products because they're made with such love and intention, and
Thank you.
like it's obvious, but I don't know. I'm happy that you can provide this service for people, because people care and people want to know about this stuff.
And I definitely think, like you said, it's been a tradition, or the way it was for how many years. People didn't go to the CVS, or people didn't,
Yeah.
they couldn't, there was none. So they walked out their back door and figured out, what can I use to help a burn or a fever or anything like that. So our job, not necessarily our job, but what we want to do is really create community around teaching, so then others could teach, so if I teach a weed walk on, backyard medicinals, people are so surprised, like, oh, I could use the dandelion other than just try to like kill it, or I could use the plantain if I get stung by a bee. So it's just, bringing that awareness to people, because they just don't know.
Yeah.
It's not that they're necessarily ignorant to it. It's just, they just don't know.
Right.
So it's about teaching and educating. So then hopefully when they're out and about and somebody gets stung or something, they're like, oh, I learned I could pick this out of the lawn and put it on, Yeah. So a big part of what we do here at Mayernik Kitchen is education, and it's trying to teach and just make folks aware of what's out there.
Yeah, empowering people with useful knowledge. So you teach like classes like once a week or a couple times a month or something, right?
Yeah, a couple times a month, I'd say. And it really varies. So we had, I think, 2 or 3 lined up for June, which are, sold out. And then we'll be releasing July and August over the next week or so. And then, so it changes. So right now we're heavy into like using fresh herbs because they're available, and teaching classes on preserving. So whether that be jamming or fermenting, or, using what you have in your garden and kind of preserving it for the months to come, which is also just the lifestyle Matt and I live.
Yeah.
So it's, again, teaching, okay, I have an abundance of strawberries or whatever. Learn how to make some jam, and then you have jam all year long.
Right.
So, and then as we get into the cooler months, it's about, really getting more into like the harvesting and drying of your herbs, so you have them. And, so it's kind of cyclical. It goes, your cycles where what we teach
is, season. Yeah.
is seasonally.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know. And I'm hoping that maybe we can coordinate something where you can come teach a class in Moon Magic.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you would do, but we haven't even talked about that. But just something, just basic, basic information for people, and I don't know, see what people want to learn about. But I just think it's so cool that you have it, so much knowledge to share. So I appreciate you like coming and talking to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like it's just, it really is about sharing and connecting. And we have an herb farm, which about up in Sussex County, where we're growing 50 to 60 varieties of medicinal herbs that you really can't find in like your typical nursery. Right. So we're growing them to make our products, but we also grow to sell, the plants. So then you could plant it in your garden and have it for, years to come.
Yeah.
So it's really like from seed to product is our business model.
So if people wanted to buy that stuff from you, they would just go to your website?
Yep, you could go to our website. You could come into the store. We have like a plant cart out front where we sell medicinal herbs probably for the next few weeks, just because either they need to get in the ground or we need to do something with them because they're outgrowing their pots. But or you could order them right online, and then we just choose a pickup either here at our home or at the store, convenient for you.
Okay, you don't ship out the plants?
We don't ship plants.
Yeah. I know there's a girl I follow on Instagram. She's like Plantarina. She's really fun.
Oh, I like her name.
Yeah, it's good. She's really entertaining to watch. But she mails them out, and she has like special packaging, and I'm like, oh my God, that must be such an ordeal.
Oh, yeah.
I think she has like a place in Florida that she grows them out of, but she's from New York State, and it seems like quite the production.
It is. And we've talked about it because we do get a lot of people asking, about shipping plants, but we're like a 4-person team here. So
right. It's too big of a job.
Yeah.
So where can people find you then if they're interested in if they're local enough to come peruse?
Yeah. So our website is MayernikKitchen.com. You could visit us in our shop at 612 Newark Pompton Turnpike in Pompton Plains, or you could follow along on Instagram and Facebook at Mayernik Kitchen.
Okay. Yeah, and it's definitely worth your while. Like I said, you do such a nice job.
Oh, thank you.
And it's educational, informative, and just also fun and pretty to look at. The layouts and things and the plants. It's always so entertaining. So thank you for spending some time with me today.
Oh my goodness, thank you. I had so much fun.
Yeah, so thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.
All right. Have a good one.
All right.